Episode 42 of the Tool Bags of Sports podcast. I'm your host, Sebastian Caballero. NBA season starts today. By the time that you see this, we'll be talking about yesterday, but nevertheless, here we are. It's been a long time coming. Finally, we're going to be able to see what's going to come about of life in the bubble. Is it going to work? Are guys going to stay clean or healthy? Not clean, healthy. But let's welcome in here Claudia and Sheehan, who are joining me on the pod. So before we dive into the regular season games, there has been preseason games being played already. And now you're starting to see some odd things, right? Like, Kawhi Leonard's numbers are down. Even though it's preseason, Kawhi Leonard's numbers are down. Some of the Clippers' numbers are down. I see somebody wearing a Clippers jersey, so that's why I'm talking about the Clippers. But no, overall, there's been players that are testing positive, players that have been leaving the bubbles. What are your guys' thoughts on the first few preseason games of the NBA?
I mean, I'm going to defend myself right now because even today is kind of remember we talked about skewness? It's a skewed game, okay? 3 of my top players are going to be out. So we're out of Lou Williams, Hurtsell is out, and oh my goodness, who else is out? And Patrick Beverley's out. So everyone decided to leave the bubble from my team because we're just so much superior that obviously, we had that right. Just kidding. I'm really mad about it. But I feel that today, for example, the game of today is going to be skewed. I think that the scrimmages for all the Cinderella teams that we're going to be getting to, the scrimmages for the Cinderella teams I have to talk about is, the what we should be talking about versus the Clippers. Because the scrimmages for the Cinderella teams, the Rockets, the Pelicans, they were giving it their all.
Well, I'm glad we're getting the scrimmages out of the way, that's for sure. Work out all the kinks. And I'm not worried about any of the stars whose numbers are down, specifically Kawhi. Kawhi is that guy that when you play fantasy sports with him, if there isn't like $100 buy-in, he's not going to pay attention to it. He's just the guy that just coasts. He only shows up when there's a lot of money on the line or when there's something important to play for. That's Kawhi. If there's not, he's just not going to care. So
hey,
whatever.
Don't forget that the Lakers lost to the Grizzlies as well. Come on, people. I mean, to the Wizards, even worse.
Yeah, I'm not really taking much. I'm not putting much stock into these scrimmage games, but I am happy they're playing them to work all the kinks out. And it seems like, John Morant's been a highlight. Speaking of John Morant, he's been a highlight reel by himself. The other day on SportsCenter Top 10, I think he had the majority of the highlights, just him. So clearly it's still a high level of basketball, but I'm not really taking these results. I'm not really putting much stock into them. I'm just happy they're playing to work all the kinks out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking too big. And by the way, I call them preseason games. It's force of habit here. These are scrimmage games is what they are. The warm-up games. I don't think it's as big of a deal either. I did see Claudia repping the Clippers today, so I had to point them out. I do want to talk about the Clippers there, though, because it is a little bit concerning considering that, part of the issue with them during the regular season was that they weren't all on the floor at the same time, not until like the very last 2 weeks before they stopped play. So the fact that they aren't getting this time to play together, it is a little concerning. But at the same time, the Clippers are in it for the long run. It's not like they have these 8 games, and it's not like they're going out in the first round. They'll probably at the very earliest they might get bounced in the second round, but it's very unlikely. I think they're super talented. Let's move on to the next subject. Obviously, most playoff teams are already decided. The one that I really want to focus on is on the West because the 8th seed has yet to be claimed. Let's start with that one. There's 8 games left. Who do you guys think wins the number 8 seed in the West?
I'm going to go with the Pelicans. I think that Zion has been so hyped up. He has these expectations. This team has an expectation to the fact that they scheduled them first game starting our season. So the game that's being played right now, which is the Jazz against the Pelicans, is actually a almost playoff game for the 8th seed. So I really think that the Pelicans, and from what I'm seeing, the Pelicans are giving it their all. So I'm going to go with the Pelicans winning the 8th seed.
You stole my pick. I probably
Oh,
should have gone. I guess I
geez.
should.
A favorite,
I
a
should.
favorite.
I should have gone first. Yeah, I like the Pelicans, and we're gonna get to Cinderella teams in a little bit. They didn't make my Cinderella team list because I mean, when I what I consider a Cinderella team is the team that has a legitimate shot at making it to the NBA Finals. I don't think they do, but I do think that they're going to be a draw that no one wants to have in the early rounds of the playoffs, just because they're so young, they're so talented, and Zion is just has the makings of a transcendent star, and he kept getting better throughout his time before the season was halted. And I hopefully, I mean, he did what he had to do, kept himself in shape, kept himself sharp over the break. We will find out what kind of game shape he's in over these next couple games. But I'm absolutely picking the Pelicans for that 8 seed, and no one's going to want to play them.
Well, I'm gonna go with the Memphis Grizzlies, simply because they have John Morant. I think people uh, hype up Zion. I said from the beginning I would rather have John Morant in the long run over Zion. Like Zion, obviously for marketing reasons, had to go number one, but I felt like Ja was the clear best player available. That's my opinion, and you saw him turn a horrible Grizzlies team into a playoff team. I don't think they're gonna fall off. I think they're gonna hold on to that 8 seed and then get bounced in the first round by the Lakers. But that's neither here or there. Okay, so now that we have the 8 seeds, we pretty much know everybody in the East. Wizards are out, so the East is pretty much settled. And then out West again, it's really just a battle of the 8 seed. We got who we got. I'm assuming we all agree that they're gonna get bounced. Whoever they play is gonna get bounced against the Lakers in the first round. But let's talk about a team, a low seeded team, what we would call a Cinderella team. What team that's right there in the middle, maybe a 5 seed, maybe a 6 seed, which team has a chance to actually upset some teams and be a champion in this, what I would call NBA tournament?
Sheehan, I'm going to let you go on this one.
All right. Well, these aren't really low seeds. When I saw this question, I thought, okay, if it's a Cinderella team, that means it's not the Lakers, it's not the Clippers, and it's not the Bucks. Because in reality, those are the only three teams that anybody's even considering for the title. So a team that I think is not getting enough love, that is going to be a very dangerous squad, is the Nuggets. First and foremost, because of Jokic's brilliance, I think he's a top 10 player in the NBA. I think he's the perfect modern center. What he does for his teammates, what he does on the offensive side for himself, it's just he's absolutely perfect, and he's going to be a perennial all-star and a Hall of Famer. And Jamal Murray is really emerging. Him and Jokic they're perfect together, especially near the end. Unfortunately, when the NBA season got suspended, Jamal Murray was injured early in the year, so people kind of forgot about him. But he's 23 years old, and especially near the end of the original season, him and Jokic were gelling. I mean, Jokic needs stimulation on the offensive side, so any kind of slasher, any kind of shooter, Jokic is going to find. And Jamal Murray was red hot. If he can get to that level again, watch out for the Nuggets. And they're a super high seed anyway. Another one is the Mavericks. I think that's a popular Cinderella team for everybody, just because Luka is just so damn good. Another probably a top 10 player in the NBA, maybe a top 5 player in the NBA. And Porzingis keeps getting better. It's tough for somebody that size to recover as quickly as, like, say, a guard, being 7'3", but he kept getting better as the season went on, similar to Jamal Murray. And him and Luka have a tremendous chemistry. Not in the same way as Murray and Jokic, but that is a team that nobody wants to draw. And I think if Porzingis is ready, and I know Luka will be ready, they could make a real run at the title.
All right, that was an awesome answer, Nugget.
Thank you so much.
I am going to go with two like you did. I am going to go with the Rockets. And I know they're not a down seed. I know they're not, but they're not who the people are talking about in the West. They're not the Lakers and they're not the Clippers. And they're also one of the shortest, fastest, most tiring teams up there, that they're going to get you running. They're going to make you be playing defense. So I think that we shouldn't sleep on the Rockets at all. And in the East, I'm gonna go with our Miami Heat. I'm not sleeping on them, like I said, and I've said many times on this podcast, the way that they were playing before this season ended was fantastic, and the way that they spanked the Bucks at least twice this season was fantastic. So I'm gonna go with those two.
Yeah, so for me, I was gonna go with the Heat in the East. I think that's a pretty obvious one because they could either be bounced in the first round or they could take down the Bucks and make it all the way to the finals. I don't think if either of those results happen, it would really surprise people. Like I think you'll have the same reaction if they get bounced in the first round or get eliminated. My second team is gonna be the 76ers because they have so much talent that they actually could win. Like if you look at their overall roster, they have one of the most talented rosters in the NBA. For whatever reason, they just don't gel together. But if they do figure something out, that could be a dangerous team that could ultimately win it all. I don't think anyone is really expecting them to win it, but that's why I'm going with them in the East. In the West, I'm gonna go with the Utah Jazz. And I know that's like the unsexiest pick in the world, like just the Utah Jazz. But
If I were you, I would tell you to glance over at the TV right now.
well, again,
47 Utah, but all right.
no, and part of the reason why I don't think they're getting the love that they deserve was because of how they played in the regular season. They obviously picked up Mike Conley before last year, and people really thought like, man, that was the key piece. They already have Donovan Mitchell, they have Rudy Gobert, but they didn't really mesh. And I think that they have a talented and a deep enough of a roster that in this setting here where there's no fans, there's no home field advantage, everybody's playing in the same exact location, I think that this could be a team that could really sneak up on people and make a run at it in, again, what I call the NBA tournament. Now that we made our picks for the Cinderella teams, there's always going to be that one good team that gets bounced early every single year. Who is that, guys? Who is that one top seed that some people are picking to win it all that could be bounced early?
I think there's one obvious one that both of you might end up picking. I'm going to be basic here, and I'm going to go with the Raptors. I think it's a low hanging fruit. They have such a good record, but star power is what plays in the playoffs. And Pascal Siakam, amazing player. Kyle Lowry, very good player, but is that the guy? Are those the people that you want with the ball in their hands come crunch time in the playoffs, which you know is going to come eventually? I don't see it. They remind me of the 60-win Hawks back in the day, led by Al Horford and Kyle Korver and company, who you knew. I mean, they were the one seed in the East, but then the Heat trounced them, and it's because star power is what gets you by in the playoffs. So I'm not seeing it for the Raptors. Another one that I think would be a flame out is actually your Cinderella team. I think that the 76ers might flame out. I think most people are picking them to at least win one series, and you're right. If things go their way, they do have the talent to make a real threat for the NBA Finals, but I just don't see it. I mean,
I just want to be clear. This was my backup Cinderella team because my actual Cinderella team was
to be fair, they were your second string Cinderella.
Second string.
To be fair. But I'm not seeing it. I don't know what kind of shape they're going to show up in. I know like the thing that everybody keeps showing is clips of Ben Simmons hitting threes in practice. I will believe it when I see it. I do like the fact that he's going to play power forward, but I'm just not seeing. They're just an accident waiting to happen.
The 76ers have also only really this season been functional at home. Now they don't even have one home game. They do have Ben Simmons throwing threes, but
another good point
at home. So my disappointment team is going. I'm going to try to choose someone from the West. So to be fair, I'm going to go with your princess team, the Mavs. I think that they have the talent. I think that with experience in 3 years and with those two players, no one's going to stop them. But for this year, I think that they're too young. Porzingis is very injury prone. So I'm going to say that they're going to take, even if they're not way up there, I think that they're going to be one of the first to exit to maybe the 8th.
If I had to pick another team from the East, it would probably be the Boston Celtics. For whatever reason, they always fall short. I think that they have something to their advantage in the sense that they are not superstar dominated. They have a lot of young talent that won't be affected by any of the things that are going on. I could see Jaylen Brown, somebody like Jaylen Brown, really balling out and taking advantage of this tournament. So but I don't know. The Celtics always seem to come up short in big games for whatever reason. You saw it a couple years ago. Obviously, you have LeBron there running the East, but the Celtics always seem to have so much momentum going into the playoffs, and for whatever reason, just end up falling off. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's something there. And then again, like if I were to pick in a series, would I pick the Bucks or the Celtics? I'm taking the Bucks. If I even the Heat and the Celtics, I'm taking the Heat. So that's my team to fall off. The Celtics. I would be surprised if they make it to the conference finals. I can easily see them being bounced in the second round and potentially even in the first round. And in the West, I'm going with the Clippers. I don't think they're gonna make it to the to the conference finals. I really do believe that because of everything that we just stated. I don't. It shouldn't affect them. It really shouldn't affect them because I think they're here for the long run. But just the fact that everything that's going on right now, the fact that Kawhi's not trying after not playing for 3 months, and all these guys are missing games, like they might be take, especially in that first round, they might take it easy on the Mavs. I believe is their first round opponent, and they could get bounced. So
Clippers fan enough, I might agree with you. So.
I mean, it's happened before. They've never
I
played in
wanted
a
to say
conference
it.
She
I didn't
final.
knows.
want to jinx
She knows
anything
how it
before
goes.
time, but you're 100% correct.
And this is another one of those teams, just like the Celtics. For whatever reason, they end up falling off in the playoffs. I mean, even back in the day when they had Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan, and they had Blake Griffin, like they had some stacked teams, and they never made it to a conference finals. Like something's there. I don't know. I think Doc Rivers.
And knock us out twice. You had OKC with Durant and with Westbrook, but yeah, we got knocked out all the time and pretty spanked.
I think Doc Rivers gets way too much love. That's a conversation for another day. It's like the Big Three era. Like you think of the Celtics Big Three, and like they swear like they won like 4 titles. Like it's crazy.
Oh
They
no!
won
If
one
you knew
title.
nothing
And
about basketball, you would think they won 11 straight. If
yeah,
you just
like
listen to Paul Pierce.
I think I think he's a good coach, but is he really a great coach? Like look how much talent he's had over the years, and he's never reached the conference finals with the Clippers. It's crazy. Let's move on to the last one.
With healthy Clippers most of the time too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, listen, it's what top team can make an early exit. The Lakers aren't taking this as a joke. Neither are any of the other top teams, the Bucks. They're all taking this seriously except the Clippers. I mean, fine, you could save yourself for the playoffs, just make sure that you're ready. That's all I got to say. Let's move on
let's
to the
hope we don't
last
leave
one.
the bubble.
The what?
Let's hope we don't keep leaving the bubble.
Let's hope they don't keep leaving the bubble to go to a strip club in Atlanta. Go get wings. Go get wings. He just wanted some breasts, some chicken breasts. Anyways, I could say that on this show, but let's move over to the last one here, the finals prediction, the official finals prediction here, guys. Who are we going with? Coming out of the East, who's coming out of the West, who's winning it all?
Once again, basketball is the most predictable sport we have, and I'm going to say Lakers Bucks, and the Lakers are going to win in 6. Very simple. I don't think anybody's going to get in the way of the Bucks, but I do think that Giannis is going to continue to take a minor step back in the playoffs, and that minor step back is going to be enough for LeBron and Anthony Davis to make it out of there with LeBron's 4th title in about 6 games. Maybe they'll push it to 7, but I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue for the Lakers. They'll get tested, but not seriously. I think I assume I am picking the Clippers to make it to the conference finals, and I think they'll give the Lakers everything they can handle. But I think Anthony Davis and LeBron James just have a better chemistry and less of a weak link than the Clippers have, which is Paul George in terms of their star power. He's just such a question mark, and he's not Anthony Davis.
I'm going to 100% agree with you. I even like the game 6 answer, sincerely. Just because I feel that the Lakers, and for Kobe and for all of this, the Lakers are going to play with all their heart and soul. Don't get me wrong. I feel like the Clippers have this pressure of just, it was the year that everyone said, oh, the Clippers might actually make it. The Clippers might actually. So the Clippers, it's not what LeBron is feeling and the fire that LeBron is feeling, saying, I'm dedicating this to my best buddy and Laker for life. So I think that LeBron is going to give it his all. Giannis is going to win MVP. He's already, up there in the talks. Giannis is going to give him a hell of a fight, but the Lakers are a better team than the Bucks. So I'm going to go 100% with you.
Wow. I was not expecting to go 3 for 3 on this last one. I'm gonna agree with both of you guys, with the Bucks coming out of the East and the Lakers coming out of the West, and for a similar reason that Claudia just mentioned. I feel like out of all the teams that are in this NBA bubble, I don't think any other two teams want it more than the Lakers and the Bucks. Giannis has become one of my favorite athletes because to him, he wants to win everything. I don't know if you guys remember the All-Star game, like how hard he was playing from the go. Like he wants to win so bad. And I think that he already being on the best team in the East, they might find a couple of challenges along the way with like the Heat and the Celtics, maybe even the Raptors, maybe. But either way, I think Giannis is too good. He's having too good of a year. And I think the Bucks are a little too good to lose to any of those other teams. So I think they're gonna come out of the East. And Claudia, just like you said, I think it's tailor made for the Lakers. I have this theory of sob stories. For whatever reason, anytime a city has gone through something tragic, an event of some type of magnitude, that city ends up winning a championship in some sport. And I think that, especially with what happened with Kobe and how the Lakers have been playing all year, and LeBron seems to be on a mission. You've already seen that the MVP voting won't count for like these last 8 games. So he, in his mind, already knows that he's not going to get the MVP. I think he's going to have this extra fire to be like, yo, fuck you. I'm 35 years old. I switched positions. You guys told me that I couldn't go out west, be the number 1 seed, be as dominant as I was in the East, and I'm going to win a championship in the West while being the number 1 seed at 35 years old and playing a new position. I think that LeBron's really going to make a statement this year. I don't see anybody beating the Lakers. I think 6 games is respectable, especially with there being no home court advantage. And I just don't see Giannis going down that easily. But I feel like Anthony Davis is going to be able to hold him. If he stays healthy, Anthony Davis is going to shut down Giannis and going to make it very difficult for them to win. Any final thoughts?
The Lakers are playing with heart versus ego, so that is the only reason why I'm choosing the Lakers. People, take notes. But after today, I will have my notes on this game and what happened. So hold on. Not sleeping on the Clippers yet, but yes, the Lakers will be playing with heart. So it's going to be really, really, really fun to watch LeBron giving him his all.
I'm happy we went 3 for 3. Probably makes for a better podcast if we disagree. Yeah, it probably makes for a better podcast if we disagree and start screaming at each other. But I'm glad that we went 3 for 3. I do. The one thing I will disagree on though is I think the reason the Lakers win is because of Anthony Davis. The Clippers don't have an answer for him, and the Bucks have an answer for him, which is Giannis, who might also win Defensive Player of the Year. But then they don't have an answer for LeBron. So Anthony Davis is the X factor, and I think he's the reason. I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Davis wins Finals MVP. I really think that he's that close to LeBron, and LeBron's gonna know. LeBron just wants to win at this point in his career. I think he's over chasing MVPs, chasing accolades. I think he just wants rings. I would not be surprised if LeBron keys in on the lack of defensive answers for Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis just goes off just with LeBron feeding him.
She and I agree with you 100% on that. I don't think the gap is that close, but I do think I agree with you in the sense that I think LeBron would be okay not winning the Finals MVP. I really don't think he cares. I think he's just trying to win rings. He's trying to cash out per se in his last few seasons. Claudia, my final thoughts though is a question for you because you went Lakers Bucks, and I know that hurt. I'm gonna assume that in your heart, what you're rooting for is a Miami Clippers finals.
Ooh!
If that's the case,
I would be repping, huh?
And if that's the case, who would you root for in that series?
I'm going with the Clippers
God.
because LAC. But it's one of those finals that, you know, if the Heat win, am I going to party my ass off anyway? 100%. Do I have more people to party my ass off with? Yeah, I have you guys. That's awesome. But I would love to see the Clippers actually win their first title. Right now that it's the first year that people that are actually saying, wow, they're going to win their first title. Golden State isn't in the talks right now, which Golden State's always first on everyone's tongue. So it would have been, you know, it usually is, or last year at least it was, Lakers, Golden State, Lakers, Golden State, Lakers, Golden State. Golden State is out this year, which is awesome. So I'm really happy that LAC is taking that GSW little spot, and I hope they take advantage of it. I hope Kawhi puts his batteries in, and I hope people start leaving the bubble and they get this. But I'm going to go with my Clippers. I'd be really happy to see Miami go.
Yeah, Kawhi's still buffering right now.
That wasn't the answer that I was hoping for. We just found out now that she's not as Miami as she looks, folks. But that's I'm just kidding. Oh, that one hurt. I was hoping that she made the full transition to the 305 to the East Coast. I guess not. That's all right.
Any other Western team against the Heat, though, I'm 100% with the Heat. Do not doubt that for a second.
Guys, we'll talk later. Sheehan, we'll see you in a little bit.
Bye.
So let's move on to baseball, MLB. Well, not the start that we were hoping for, that's for sure. If you haven't heard, if you've been sleeping under the rock, believe it or not, the Marlins have made the national media news, but just not in a good way. Season got underway last Thursday. We finished the first set of games without any issues, but the Marlins had an outbreak, and that has been MLB's biggest fear. It's something that they literally did not plan for. It was not in their 113-page manual or 130-page manual, whatever it is, that they had prepared for this shortened season. And it's really unfortunate because it raises the question of, you know, how many more teams is this going to happen to? There was rumors of the Marlins supposedly going out in Atlanta. Maybe that had something to do with it. Luckily for you guys, we have a Marlins insider here on the podcast, so I'm sure he will tell us all about it. But guys, before we get to that situation here, let's start on a lighter side of things before we really dive in. First set of games here. Some teams actually started showing out. Mentioned the Marlins. Winning 2 out of their 3 games, and they seem to be the best hitting team in baseball, said this guy. What were your guys' thoughts on the first weekend?
Well, coronavirus aside, I thought it was great. And something that I thought would be a positive heading into the season, which was a better viewing experience from home because of how much you can hear, seemed to be true. You can hear a lot more of what the players say. And the quality of baseball, you know, you still see guys throwing 100 miles an hour. You still see guys hitting 450-foot bombs. Giancarlo Stanton almost hit one 500 feet. So the quality of baseball hasn't dwindled, which was something that I think a lot of people were worried was such a big layover. Because Okay, so we're just sticking with the positives. So I like what you can hear, and I like the quality of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's just good, to have baseball back on TV. Just having that, every day there's a game nationally televised. Like Sheena said, the product is still very good, even though some players have opted out. In fact, one player has actually opted back in, Nick Markakis from the Atlanta Braves. That's definitely going to help them offensively. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of some of these prospects are already getting called up very early. Like I cover the Florida Gators on Rivals for baseball, and Brady Singer made his debut with the Royals, and he had a very good outing against the Indians. And Nate Pearson, one of the top pitchers in minor leagues, made his debut yesterday. We're recording on Thursday. He made his debut on Wednesday with the Toronto Blue Jays, and that's a guy that is just absolutely electric and has, the potential to be one of the top pitchers in the game in the next few years. So, it's an exciting time, minus what's been going on with the Fish. Even with the Fish, I mean, they were playing ball. Sandy looked absolutely nasty. He looked much better than the year before. It looked like he was making that step that the Marlins were hoping for him to make. And also, I mean, the lineup was just hitting the ball. I mean, for a team that really struggled hitting for power did not look like an issue week one.
I like the fact that a lot of these teams are coming out strong early that we don't expect. Like the Marlins was a good example. I also like the Baltimore Orioles start off 2-1 over the Red Sox. So overall, I really like that. I also like that it's a lot of the games came down to on Saturday was 1-1 matchups, like 1-1 in the series and everything. So I think that's very interesting.
Drew, I gotta say, your White Sox made me look bad. We were hyping up the White Sox a couple of weeks ago, and with our MLB predictions, and then they're shitting the bed right now. But aside from that, guys, no, I agree with all you guys, and especially what Sheen said. Like, I love how like you hear all the sounds that are going on, because you really don't hear that. Like, I guess like being a baseball player, being in games, like every time you score a run, like there's that enthusiasm, right? But when there's fans in the stands, you really don't hear it. Now you do. Like, you see all these players all hyped up and having fun and all that stuff. Like, that's awesome, man. And for whatever reason, I don't know about you guys, but like the cutouts of the fans, it makes such a like big difference. The other day I was watching a game. I swear to God, I totally forgot about it, because like they have the crowd noise playing in the background, and then they just have people in the seats, and I was just like, oh shit, that's right. They have cutouts out, but it made such like a difference. Like, it actually made it seem like an actual game. I thought it was super cool, and it was awesome to see live sports. And like Drew, like you said, a lot of these teams, a lot of these bad teams winning some games early, winning their series, and a lot of people are like, well, it's just the first series of the game. You can't look at it that way, because it's not. Oh, they're starting off 2-1. It's, hey, they're in first place or tied for first place with 59 games to go. But now let's talk about the dark cloud, the elephant in the room. The Marlins, yes, they showed out and did all these things. Hector, I'm gonna start with you because you have the most information on all this. It was tragic, man. It was tragic that they had to stay in Philly, and literally the very next day, what was it? 8 players tested positive. They're up to what, 12, 11 now. Hector, go ahead. You can jump in now.
First and foremost, just prayers up to those guys. This is obviously, something that has ravaged the nation and just the world. So, prayers up to them. Hopefully they make a full, speedy recovery. For the most part, from what I've heard, most of the players are asymptomatic. So they were kind of caught off guard when they were told, hey, you tested positive. And the other guys that do show symptoms, they're very mild, like just like, oh, I have a little bit of a fever, just a little bit higher than normal, some stuffiness and coughing, like nothing too serious where you start worrying about these guys' health long term. For the most part, these guys, hopefully make full speed recoveries. In fact, two coaches tested positive. One of the coaches today tested negative. So that's already a positive. He already got tested again. We won't find out till tomorrow morning if he's negative again. And if he is negative again, then he is eligible to get back with the team. Yeah, I mean, it just sucks. As of right now, we only know of 6 out of the, I think it's up to 15 or 17 players that have tested positive. The 6 players that we know of are Sandy Alcantara, Miguel Rojas, Jorge Alfaro, Jose Urena, Garrett Cooper, Harold Ramirez. And Harold actually did an interview with the Spanish, I think it's like an internet show, or it's just a regular Spanish TV show that I saw on Twitter. And he said for the most part, hey, we're all okay. I feel fine, So hopefully these guys can, turn the corner quickly so that way the Marlins can get back on the field. And for the theory that, some Bob Nightingale, I think, is the one who put this theory out, like, oh, the players probably went out. Number one, there's no evidence of that. The people inside the organization have said that the Marlins have followed the MLB's protocols. They followed them to a T. And also, the Marlins brought up 41 guys to Atlanta because, remember, they were still, figuring out the team. So that means 11 of those guys had to go back to Jupiter. All the Jupiter guys have tested negative. So the fact that – can you hear me?
You're good.
All right, sorry, I had a phone call. But the fact that these guys still tested negative tells me that, okay, this might have not happened in Atlanta because if so many people have tested positive in such a short amount of time, if this really started in Atlanta, then some of these minor leaguer guys that are in Jupiter right now would have come up positive, and that just simply isn't the case. All those guys are healthy. I think they're practicing because it's been back-to-back days where no one has tested positive, and that includes staff and coaches. So that's just good news right there. The Marlins needed some good news this week, and that's definitely some good news. And like I'm not gonna say my theory, but I mean this could have easily happened because a flight attendant had it, and the flight attendant from the flight from Atlanta to Philly might have passed it on to. Obviously, Alfaro was the first one to get tested, so you could say maybe Alfaro's got that virus from not stewardess, airline person, or it could just simply because the Marlins don't use a private plane. They use a regular chartered plane. Maybe it wasn't cleaned or it wasn't cleaned properly, and that virus was already in the plane, and those guys were just sitting ducks. We really have no idea. The Marlins are doing their own investigation, so same thing with the MLB. So for anybody to say anything with absolutely zero evidence right now is just plain stupid, because all you're doing is just throwing guesses, and you're just trying to put out these hot takes on Twitter to get likes, retweets, and follows, which I just think is completely idiotic because this is a serious situation, not only for the game of baseball, but just for these people's health. Because, I mean, look, even the healthy guys are still stuck in Philadelphia. These guys can't go home to their families because, people are still getting are still testing positive for COVID-19. For those people to, throw blame at the Marlins and, accuse them of doing stuff like going outside, even though they're well aware of how dangerous it is, and they did not test positive back home. They went through a whole summer camp clean. So obviously something happened while they were traveling. And in fact, when Jorge Alfaro tested positive, the next game, Don Mattingly was talking about how they felt much safer in Miami, which is crazy because Miami is a hot spot. It's one of the hottest spots in part of the world when it comes to the coronavirus. They felt more comfortable in Miami than they did on the road. And that probably is the case for every team. That they'd rather be at home, because they know what's going on in their home stadium. They know that everything's being taken care of while you have some uncertainty. And, just the fact that travel is one of the quickest ways that this virus can spread. So, I mean, that's just my take. I think it's more logical than what some people have already put out there with zero evidence.
I mean, it's Bob Nightingale, so right there, just take
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. How many times has that guy when that guy said that the Marlins hired Jeff Conine when they fired one of their managers? Turns out to be the old GM Dan Jennings, Lieutenant Dan. That guy's not credible whatsoever.
Yeah, Bob Nightingale, unfortunately, is known just as much for making the wrong, having incorrect takes than he is for being an actual good journalist, a credible journalist. I don't really care if we ever get to the bottom of how exactly it started with the Marlins. Maybe we never will. The point is, this virus is just so damn contagious. It's so easy to get it. Who knows if we'll ever find it? But the point is that I think it's gonna happen to other teams. I don't think the Marlins, obviously were the first, but it appears to have happened to a lesser degree. I think it's actually 19 players now. That's what the count is up to. But regardless, I think it happened to a lesser degree with the Phillies, and I would not be surprised if it happens to to a couple of the teams down the road. So MLB is just going to have to adjust. I do not envy the people in charge of making the schedule. I do not envy the people in charge of planning the travel, planning the lodgings, because it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to finish this season when I think that it really is going to happen to a couple of the teams.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, I think it's kind of crazy that, we're doing these testings and they're going like rapidly. We're just trying to get them out as fast as possible with the Miamis and Phillies and the other teams that are involved and everything. Another thing I want to say is that maybe we could adapt something like how the EPL has it. Granted, they do play only on like the weekends and a few games to the weekdays, but they have zero cases. As far as like the NBA also is in a bubble, and the baseball is already too far past that to be in a bubble. But again, the traveling, we're trying to do as best as we can. So someone has to use a bathroom, they can't really stop at a gas station if they're traveling by bus. It's just one of those things where it's going to be inconvenient for a little bit, but it's for the best.
Yeah,
Sebastian,
and
let me
go
let me
ahead.
just say something real quick. If it does come out that the Marlins actually didn't follow protocol and a player did actually, screw up and go outside, then they deserve to be punished, obviously, because they know the dangers that they're putting themselves and also the people around the organization. So if Bob Nightingale is actually correct with his theory, then yeah, I think the Marlins should receive some punishment. And if it's not the organization, at least the player or players that are involved. And that's only if it's correct. If we can't go off theories, and honestly, Sheehan said like he doesn't know if they'll ever find the reason for this outbreak. Yes, that's possible, but at the same time, they want to make sure that they find, what's the reason for it, so that way this can be a learning lesson, and they don't, it doesn't happen to another team. They can figure out what the issue was, correct that issue, and move on.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say, there's a reason why I asked Hector to go first, because he's as passionate as we all are about the Marlins. A few of us that are passionate about the Marlins, and I think he speaks for all of us. What, especially with the players. That's what gets me. Is the players, because obviously them being professional athletes, this isn't going to affect them directly, but it does affect their families and the people around them. And like Hector said, there's some of these guys that are still in Philadelphia. They're stuck there because they have to quarantine. So in that sense, it really does suck. And you only wish the best for these guys, but we have to talk about the seriousness of it. Like some of you guys already mentioned, if this does spread to other teams, like it's gonna happen. I think it's the inevitable, right? Like it's gonna happen to another team, and who knows? Like if the Marlins did go out, then okay, yes. But like, what if it was a flight attendant or just somebody that they cross paths with at the hotel, or whoever? Like, how did the first person get it? Which is right now the reports say it was Jorge Alfaro. Like, how did it start? Who did it get it from? And they're not gonna be they're the first team, but they're not gonna be the last team. If this does happen again, guys, what should the MLB do to try to finish the season? Is there anything that can be done to try to finish the season, or try to change things around?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that the end of the year standings, when it comes time for the end of the year standings, not every team is going to have played the same amount of games. Maybe some teams play 50, maybe some teams play 45. I think that I read today that they're considering two 7-inning doubleheaders, something that you see in the minors sometimes. You're going to have to, if you want. I mean, the goal is you don't want like the Marlins going 10-7 and going up against the Braves in the divisional round of the playoffs with a 38-22 record. So you're going to have to get as many teams as you can, probably over the 50 game mark. But, I mean, what if the Marlins, what if the Marlins rebound and then they get it again? I mean, there's a lot of players that haven't gotten it. There's a lot of coaches that haven't gotten it. So there's so many variables right now. But like I said before, a lot of teams, I think multiple teams are going to have a similar situation to the Marlins, or maybe to a lesser degree, like the Phillies perhaps, but still a serious situation. But you have to put all options on the table, including the 7-inning doubleheaders, including I don't know, maybe playing on a scheduled off day, on what was a scheduled off day, you got to get most people around the same amount of games in order for it to be valid.
Yeah, when it comes to playing games, I think that if you play like 50 to 55, I think you should be okay. And I like the seven inning double headers. Reminds me of like what we did at NEI, me and Sebastian, you, Sheehan, because you played D2 ball. But yeah, that's something that we did. Actually, what we did was the first game was going to be 7 innings, and if it was tied by the seventh inning, then we would play 9 innings, and then the other game would be the 7 inning. But if let's say there's a winner decided by 7 innings, then the next game would be 9 innings. Maybe they do that, use that as an idea, but I don't know. Like it's tough. It's tough because the MLB is going to do just about everything they can to play this full season because there's just so much money on the line that they get more hurt financially with without playing games than with playing games. So I mean, you just got to look at it. I mean, I think that's why it's so important for the MLB to figure out what happened with the Marlins, because once they figure out what happened, they can correct the error. Because I mean it's 113 pages. You said that something should be in there to dictate like, okay, when should we at least put the season on pause, not cancel it completely, but if it happens to multiple teams, I think putting the whole season on pause for 2 weeks, or when if 2 weeks, if some teams still have some guys testing positive, but the team could still be play at a competitive level, I think you go along with it. I mean, it really just depends. We're just obviously hoping for the best that nothing, like the Marlins are the only team that this happens to, and the season can go on without a hitch.
I would like to bring up that actually a good point about like the season and how it might end. There's a season I think during the strike of like the 1950s or so that there was games there of like 55 games played, finished, and 51 games, and they went into like deep stats and tiebreakers to figure that out. That might be something that down the line we might have to like figure out because there's like a certain amount of time that we can play these games, and the Yankees right now had to stop their like they had to stop and take a step back, and that's hurting them because they just started. Phillies was practicing today. They had a couple people test positive, and because of that, they had to stop again. Stopping that momentum, which isn't good at all for baseball and the quality of baseball. So that's another thing too. Are we actually getting good quality baseball? Or are we just trying to force these people to do something we want to see and try to feel normalized?
For me, the only thing that has not made sense to me. Well, let me answer the question first. So as far as how the season plays out and how they finish it, at first I thought there was no way that they're gonna finish it. They're gonna find a way, one way or another, to try to finish this season. How that happens, I mean, you might see 85 different players play for one team, but I think they're gonna get through it one way or another. It's just how it is. But and the inconsistency. We were supposed to start a fantasy baseball segment, but it's just way too inconsistent. Like we had our set lineups for the week, and all of a sudden, Moustakas is out, and like 30% of the guys that we had listed are already out for the week. So, we're gonna see a lot of that going on throughout the season. So it might be a little bit of a headache, but I think they're gonna get through it. I think they have to get through it. They have to. But again, going back to what I was saying earlier, what doesn't make sense to me is that the KBO has been playing since May. And their standard was if one player tests positive, then we shut the whole thing down. And they've been playing for 2 months, not one positive test. I understand things in South Korea have been handled way differently than they have here in the U.S., but it doesn't make sense to me. I really don't understand how so many professional athletes are testing positive. And it's not like South Korea is playing in a bubble. They're traveling to each other's cities, and they're following the same guidelines that the MLB is following. So I don't understand why this is happening. But either way, again, you just wish for all these players, the best for all these players, whether they're on the Marlins, the Phillies, anybody that has tested positive, the Reds. Before we get to our final thoughts, something happened this week. The matchup we've been waiting all year for, Dodgers-Astros, that went down. And as expected, there was some retaliation by somebody that wasn't a part of that 2017 Dodgers team, but he was a part of the Red Sox team that got bounced by the Astros earlier in that year. Joe Kelly intentionally throwing a 96-mile-an-hour fastball behind Alex Bregman's ear hole. He almost hit Gurriel, even though that was with an off-speed or with a breaking ball. It still seemed intentional, and then he followed that up with another breaking ball to Carlos Correa's head. And then he ended up striking him out and taunting him, and there was almost a brawl there. But what really got to me was the suspension. What is going on that we're handing out 8-game suspensions and a shortened season to a guy that was just literally trying to send a message. He didn't get tossed from the game. He didn't necessarily hit anyone either. Like, he didn't hit anybody. So, what did you guys think of the whole situation?
He threw a knee. I just wrote an article about this today, so I'm fresh. I'm ready to go. He threw one near Alex Bregman. The other two, I don't think they were intentional. I think Joe Kelly just has really shitty control, and especially in that moment, he had no
Look
idea.
at the video of his changeup. He broke his own window.
Yeah, exactly. There's video proof of how shitty he is. So he didn't hit anybody. He said a few bad words and made a few silly faces. Didn't get ejected. The bench is cleared, but it was just eyewash. That was a joke. And this guy gets an 8-game suspension in a 60-game season. That's over 13% of the games. That's insane. It's just ridiculous. I know what Rob Manfred's trying to do. He's overcorrecting because of him not dishing out suspensions. But there's a difference between overcorrecting, like, say for steroids, if you should have suspended somebody longer for steroids, and then the next guy that takes steroids, you suspend him like longer than you should in order to overcorrect. But the overcorrection can't come in order to benefit the team that you should have punished in the first place, which is the Astros. So how are we supposed to look at this? Does he have preferential treatment to the Astros? I don't think so. But look at the evidence. He didn't suspend any of the Astros players, and then he suspends a guy significantly for throwing one near the Astros players. How am I supposed to see that? How does that not point to you having preferential treatment to the Astros and just being a buffoon? I don't understand.
Joe Kelly is a national treasure and an American hero. Let's start off with that. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Especially since I had Alex Bregman on my fantasy team. I'm like, let's go, give me those points. Just don't hit him in the head. I need him for the rest of the season. Get him in the ass. You know what? Boom, I get fantasy points for hit by pitches. Let's go. Come on, get him right in the ass.
Oh, BP.
But to be honest with you, like I knew it was coming. Especially Joe Kelly has that history of not being afraid to throw at people, and also not afraid to throw some hands. Let's go. If I'm not mistaken, when he was with the Red Sox, he actually threw inside at one of the Yankee hitters, and one of the Yankee hitters charged at him, and he just dropped his glove. Like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. Austin Riley, I think. Or no, Austin.
You said that so nice. He plunked the shit out of whatever his name was. Yeah, Austin.
No, or Tyler. I don't
Tyler
know.
Austin.
Tyler Austin. There you go.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's get it down. So I love that about him. And here's one thing I will say. Joe Kelly got an 8-game suspension. That is equivalent to a 60-game suspension for a 162-game season. That already is ludicrous. But to also add the fact that Joe Kelly by himself has 8 more games suspended than the entire Houston Astros roster. None of those players got in trouble, and they admitted to cheating. People thought Tom Brady cheated when he deflated footballs. And guess what? He served 4 games, which is 25% of a football season. I mean, 25% of a football season. So, I mean, just because they thought he did it, he got that type of suspension. These guys openly admitted, like, oh, yeah, we did that shit. Yeah, we have a nice ring, we have a nice ring, too. Yeah, do not take it away. So, yeah, I'm not getting suspended, and I'm keeping my ring. Yeah, you know what? I'll do it again. I will do it again because guess what? You're not doing a damn thing about it. So you know what? The MLB players, the pitchers are like, okay, I'm going to have to take this. I'm gonna have to put matters into my own hands. Boom, 96. How do you like that? And also it's kind of funny because if you've seen Bregman, Altuve, Springer, and Correa are having a really rough start to the year, and Gurriel, and it was one of the broadcasters. Altuve got caught looking at a fastball literally right down the middle, and one of the broadcasters, I don't even know if he did this intentionally, he just slipped out. It's easier, it's easier knowing what's coming than guessing. Like, it's just like stuff like that. Like, yeah, we didn't even though the coronavirus has taken us away from baseball for I think it was 140 days. Yeah, we didn't forget, buddy. We still remember what you did and how you tainted that game. How you tainted the game of baseball. So yeah, and Joe Kelly's gonna remind you, and I think Joe Kelly should appeal that.
He is.
I think he'll still get suspended because the MLB has to say, we have to suspend him. He threatened a player's, career. I think he gets cut to 3 games. That's it. Get him back out there. And guess what? He's going to do it again if he sees them. If he sees them, he's going to do it again. He doesn't care. He's like, this time I missed. This time I'm actually going to hit you. That's his mindset. He's a bulldog. I love it. That's all I got to say.
I mean, people say baseball is boring. I think it's the complete opposite, to be honest. I mean, I had a pleasure of going to San Diego and watching the Dodgers play against the Padres, and those fans get all riled up and crazy, those Dodger fans. I just imagine them, in the zone, literally just, watching this series, man, they're not doing anything. And then, boom, that one pitch goes by. They're like, boys. They're like, they have their beers. They're like, finally, something is happening that we can root for. They're like, all that money I lost that year by saying the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. This guy, if he was running for president, Orange County, Southern California would be Joe Kelly's state. Nothing about it, for sure. No doubt.
He's definitely a popular guy, not only in California, but in many areas of the country.
Joe Kelly's my write-in vote. Let's go. He's my write-in vote.
What I do want to say, as far as the suspension, it's ridiculous, man. A fine is in order because you threw at his head. Okay, give him a fine. You cannot suspend the guy when you didn't suspend anybody else. And I get it. I can't be mad that the Astros didn't get suspended because this was a deal that they made with the MLB. And the MLB has said multiple times that, they wouldn't have found out all that they know without the information that was provided. I don't know how true that is. I think there's obviously a bigger elephant in the room there that nobody's really talking about, which is there are multiple teams that have done this. Maybe not to the extent of the Astros, and maybe they just don't want another dark mark on the game of baseball. It was like that during the steroid era. I doubt that Bud Selig didn't know what was going on, but I think that after what happened with the 1994 strike, I think, bringing another dark cloud over the game of baseball wouldn't have been such a great thing and all of that, and, whatever. But as far as Joe Kelly, I thought it was hilarious. Hector had brought up, he pitches with balls. He doesn't give a fuck, man. I remember that Red Sox game clearly. He literally he's just like, come on. You're going to charge it? Come on. And he goes, he beat his ass. That was hilarious. Yeah, ridiculous. I think he's definitely appealing it, and hopefully he'll win. He should win it. At the very least, if he does serve a suspension, it should be more than a game, and the right punishment should be a fine. Sheehan, I got your final thoughts. Hector, we got 2 minutes, and then Andrew, your final thoughts.
I think you would have been foolish at the beginning of this season to not expect there to be some speed bumps. I am not at all confident in Rob Manfred's abilities as a commissioner to navigate through this, but we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure the 7-inning doubleheaders is a thing. Before I said that I thought that they were gonna employ that, but I'm reading here that I think that's official.
Keep wearing your mask, and let's try to get back to normality. College football is starting to release their schedules. I'm starting to get excited about that because college football is just so much fun to watch. Even though it's conferences aren't going to play 11 games or 10 or 11 games. please wear your mask, because if the coronavirus numbers continue to go up, the chances of college football playing a full season continue to go down. Let's stop the spread. Practice social distancing. Practice good hygiene. Just do all the right things that you should already be doing. I shouldn't have to be telling you this in pretty much August. Drew?
I appreciate Rojas's apology. I don't know if you guys caught that on Twitter. He's very aware of the situation and being self-aware. Dr. Fauci, I'm saying that right? Dr. Fauci, the guy who's doing the whole COVID pandemic thing.
Mm-hmm.
He also said that baseball is handling it correctly. So that's also a positive. And Rick Renteria also flared up the other day with allergies. So that's another thing. People can't get allergies. It's going to be really tic-tacky down the line.
Well, for my final thoughts, and I tweeted this during the last weekend, and it's funny. I'm going to use this all year long. The Marlins are the best hitting team in baseball this year. That was evident. You guys saw it last weekend. And if anyone wants to dispute with me that the Marlins were going to win the World Series this year, but my defense when they don't win it is that COVID happened. It affected them, and that's the reason that they didn't win the World Series. So. Guys, until next week, see ya.
Thank you. Later.
Great episode right there by everyone on the squad here. I know that by the time that this episode comes out, it'll already be a little bit later. It's been a busy week on my end just to kind of keep you guys in tune. I've currently accepted a new position at a new school to become a head baseball coach. So been pretty occupied with the transition and all that. So the shows this week have been a little delayed, but nevertheless, bringing you the content as always. We will keep you updated with what's going on in the MLB, as you may have seen. A couple more teams have more positive tests, and Commissioner Rob Manfred has now said that if teams continue to test positive, it is possible that they shut down this season, something that we hope does not happen. Let me talk to you guys real quick about Thrive Fantasy app. As most of you know, we are an official affiliate of the Thrive Fantasy app. The Thrive Fantasy app is the best app for you, for those of you that love fantasy sports, love betting on sports, think that you know everything about sports, want to win a little bit of extra cash. The Thrive Fantasy app is the app for you. And to get you started, if you use my code TOOL, T-O-O-L, once again, that is TOOL, T-O-O-L, you use that code, that's my code, I'm going to give you 20 instant bucks right into your account. So whatever you sign up with, it's got to be a minimum of $20. If you sign up with my code TOOL, T-O-O-L, I'm going to hook you up with 20 instant bucks into your account, into your Thrive Fantasy account for you to use for whatever you would like. So hooking you up right now. Now is the time to sign up. Once again, that is the Thrive Fantasy app. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe on all platforms. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. Go ahead and subscribe. Share these episodes with your friends. Let's keep growing. Until next time, I'm signing off.